My name is Rob. I'm the National Outreach Coordinator for Space Week Ireland, and one of the programs that we run is what we call Space Reads, where we work with libraries from around the country to coordinate small events. Sometimes they organize larger events, but the idea is to kind of democratize the access to Space Week in Ireland. We started the program in either 2018 or 2019, and before that, there was a lot of events in Ireland. Ireland is one of the best performing nations in the world and has been since 2017. But in the early years, there was a lot of concentration of events in the cities. And as soon as we introduced the Space Week's Space Reads program, we saw a massive improvement in the distribution of events. So you can see any of the red counties are counties where there was no events in 2017. Orange counties are counties where there was 1 to 5 events, and green counties are where there were in excess of 10 events. And as you can see, after we introduced the Space Reads program in 2018, tons more counties got far more events. So we're starting to see more and more counties taking part in Space Week, which has been an amazing thing that has been very, very much down to the participation of libraries such as yourselves. So we're very, very grateful for your help. The most straightforward event that a lot of libraries choose to run is to basically just create a space-themed display. So we'll send out posters and bookmarks and printable resources, and just take the resources that you guys already have, like space-themed books, videos, CDs, these kind of things, and just create a little display for Space Week. And it's been very, very popular. If people take out space-themed books during Space Week, they can then give out the Space Week bookmarks and other resources. And it's a very low effort but high impact way to get involved. But we've had many libraries reach out to us saying that they want to get a little bit more involved and a little bit more hands-on and to run things like workshops, which is why we've brought our education officer here at Blackrock Castle Observatory, Frances McCarthy, along. So Frances has a lot of experience in teaching teachers how to engage their students in space-themed activities, and she's going to walk us through a couple of them today. So you, Frances.
I do a lot of work with teachers, but I also work with informal educators. So over the last couple of years, the Irish Girl Guides introduced a space badge. I've done the training for the volunteer leaders of the Girl Guides to be able to do space with their unit members who range from age 4.5 to adults. So we try to have something for everybody. I know some libraries we've worked with have groups that meet every week. Social groups, a gramophone circle, other activities. So there may be a way to link a space theme to a group that already is in existence. I've been out at one point with the Cork County Libraries to Passage West Library doing space-themed sewing with a group. All right, do you remember that, Rob? I went out and did applique techniques with the space theme. It was the most fun, and we used images from the Hubble Space Telescope and then sat and sewed. And because that suited the group that was already using the library. So we do not have a prescriptive sense that you must work only with children or only with adults. You work with the people that are already engaging with you. The big place you will find a lot of our resources is on our Space Week website. So we're going to visit the Space Week website, show you where you will find some of the activities. I have a very short PowerPoint to share, and this we will send out to you as well. It really is just the shortest little bit about why we do Space Week. So we partner particularly with Azero Ireland. Science Foundation Ireland has recently changed names to become Research Ireland, but over the years, World Space Week has been offered in Ireland as Space Week Ireland, and SFI have been partners for some of that time supporting our work. Why do space? Well, it's cool, is my best reason to do space. It's always held between the 4th and 10th of October. Space provokes awe, and space exploration helps us understand our home planet. There are 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals with 169 targets. 65 of them are benefited through Earth observation, satellite, and related technology. So space informs what we know about our planet and informs how we understand ourselves and how we deal with some of the pressing issues of today comes to us from space and space technology. So we strongly believe you can link space in the broadest sense with activities that you might like to already be doing. We asked a few years ago for describe the Space Week event you attended, and the reactions were inspiring, fun, engaging, interesting, educational, well-presented, understandable, awesome, relaxing, meaningful, affirming. It really can reach a lot of different audiences in a lot of different ways. Now, the place where we go to find all of our amazing resources and our amazing activities is our Space Week website at spaceweek.ie. We've run this website for years, and the result is there's lots of things on there that you might have to hunt around to find. On the top page of it are the public events, let you find an event and add an event. So if we just scroll down, these are events that are currently in place with an area for you to add your event. Space Week TV is a newer initiative where we have pre-recorded or are live casting events that can be shared. So far, I think our Space Week TV has our space art has already been recorded with a couple of our colleagues sharing an art project and a creative making project, and identifies some of our sponsors and supporters. The place to find materials is for organizers. So with the 4 organizers, we have obviously events for teachers who are a large audience for us, but we also have family and club events. So for the organizers, you can choose downloadable resources and activities. So for families, these were designed for easy engagement with some young people and some supporting adults to do together. They're generally crafty and simple with easy materials. Making clouds of a gas planet, making a spacecraft, a star lantern, and designing their own space station. For clubs, we have activities that were designed for informal education, generally running a variety of ages. So drawing your own constellation for quite young children, the plow clock for slightly older children and working why we can tell the time from the night sky, and a solar system walk that lets you go big. We have a design activity for a mission patch, which could link to any mission patch that anybody's interested in, and allows the creative expressive arts to come into designing and making. I think it would be very easy to say, who'd like to design their own mission patch? I've done this with 8-year-old girls. They sat for 25 minutes contentedly discussing who was on the mission, what names would they put, what were they going to discover, and how would they represent that in a small mission patch. They loved it. Really straightforward. And it's not something that you need to be an expert on because they're designing their own mission, they're designing their own plans. The solar system walk is one that I am particularly fond of. You may not have the capacity to leave the library and go on the road, but if you have a map with your location, you can map out where the planets would be from your venue. I see this as a lovely way to ask people, where have you come from? And you're visiting the library today. Oh, well, you're about the distance of this planet if the sun was 1 meter or 2 meters, whatever size you would like to make it. There is a link at the base of this map, a solar system, that puts you through to the site from PBS Learning, which lets you map this directly. And this is just beautifully powerful. So we can begin this. I'm skipping the tutorial because I've done this. So our location for the sun is going to be Kinsale Library. There you go. And we're going to put the sun at Kinsale Library. I work in centimeters, so let's make a 10-meter size sun. So if you shrank the sun to be 10 Well, that's in centimeters, so let's go. Take away our zeros. 1,000, do I have it right? 100 centimeters is a meter, so 1,000 centimeters is 10 meters, right, Rob? Give me a thumbs up. Oh, I'm asking Rob to do maths on the fly.
My apologies, I'm helping somebody join the Zoom here.
Okay, so if we then say, right, if we're gonna put that at Kinsale Library, and we're gonna put it there, and we're gonna make it 10 meters, where would the planets be? So if you think, if you have a 10-meter room, that's quite a large room. The room I'm in is about 6 meters. Our main castle tower here at Blackrock is 6 meters across. So this is bigger than the tower of Blackrock Castle for the size of the sun. So all your people can come. Saturn is as far away as Menam Bridge. We're going to have to zoom out a little bit. All right. The planet Uranus crosses my hometown, and we're very close to Blackrock here, and we'll have to go out to get Pluto as far away as Killa or Inchigila or Rathcormac from Kinsale. So this could be set up on a computer, have a display, and have just an interesting conversation with the visitors about how big things are. And of course, this is a free website to use, and you can put this as a very simple sharing and discussion point. And you also find out where your visitors are coming from. All right, I love it. It's simple, it's straightforward. Now I'm going to move back from that, mapping our solar system, and come back to Space Week, because this, of course, is from the Solar System Walk. The activity we thought we might look in a little bit more detail today is one that originally was designed for teachers. So it exists as a booklet. I have it here, a classroom resource booklet on astronauts and the International Space Station. So for teachers, we can scroll down and find a variety of activities. All of them are English, some of them are in Irish. And even though these are teacher focused, they are very much adaptable for informal groups or for a drop-in session. Materials that you might leave on a table and say, you know, Friday after school between 3 and 4, come in and make something using one of these resources. Most of them are extremely simple materials because that's the mandate of working with teachers in the classroom. You don't have to have special stuff. So back up here, we have engineering the moon and engineering in space. If you open that, you'll find what I have printed here, a booklet about the International Space Station. So some information, an inquiry approach to it, and an investigate about robot arms. Now, we've done this in libraries. We went to Glanmire and Bishopstown Library in the past, and we just literally take a box of bits, print off this and say, right, let's make ourselves a robot arm. Let's look at designing a simple task, and then we've proposed a few questions. What happens if? The key with this kind of approach and working in this way is you're not the teacher. You are the side participant, or you are the person on the other side of the room going, try it, try it. All right. I make a huge point with the people I work with, particularly in formal education, that my only answer is, have you tried it? Have I did it right? Did I do it right, miss? Have you tried it? I don't know. I've never seen it made that way. Try it. All right. So it's an approach that children are getting more and more used to and can be a lovely way to engage with them. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and pop back to spotlighting my display in front of me. So this is the table immediately in front of me where we have our classroom booklet. To support it, we have a children's storybook with the introduction by astronaut Scott Carpenter. This book, I don't even know who got this for us. We've had it for a while, and it gives an overview of the International Space Station And of course, on the International Space Station, the astronauts sometimes go out to do work, but very often they use a long robot arm that was built by the Canadians, the Canadarm, hence why my emphasis on it. The Canadarm is used to put machinery and spacecraft into the right positions, to move things around, to do simple repairs, and sometimes to hold the astronauts if they in person need to do the repairs. So we have a robot arm that can be made out of a set of fairly simple equipment. The very simplest way is cardboard, because you're likely to have cardboard lying around and it's fairly easy to work with a hole punch. It does, however, bend a little bit, and if you're intending to offer this as a drop-in session, which is the way we've done it, the cardboard is nice and they'll probably want to take it away. And that's grand, but you just have to have more cardboard around. Hole punches, the regular kind of simple hole punch that you can get is fine for the cardboard. And to make a hole, you're just popping it in and lining it up a little bit and punching away. And that will work for you. If you're planning to use this a little bit more vigorously, or with participants that you know are murder on cardboard, you might want to go to lolly sticks. Now, these lolly sticks that I have are the kind of generic ones that you can purchase. I buy them in the hundreds because I use them for so many things. But they are that little bit thicker and that little bit trickier to punch through. And so they laugh at this hole punch. And this hole punch does nothing. So because we were making quite a few, I upgraded to the heavy duty killer hole punch. All right. If you have one of these, then you're laughing. It is a lot heavier. It is a lot sturdier. It will go through. All right. Or you can get one of the smaller hole punches. This one, I think I went to an office supply company and said, what's the best small heavy duty hole punch? This, of course, like all hole punches, you can't get the children's fingers into it. You could choose to supply this and the materials and let them loose. I liked, because we were doing quite a tight program, I prepped them in advance. I think I might have had a TY student with me and I set them the task for sort of an hour, punching away, and they created the whole series of pre-made. All right. Once you have them, your connection is made with the paper fasteners. So they come easily enough in large quantities. If you're doing this, you might provide a little bag of them for one set and have a few of these available for a group to collect or out on a table. And the assembly is as straightforward as going towards this final product. So where you have a hole, you're going to join the ends, you're going to join the middle. Depending on who you're working with, you may have one set up for them to mirror. You may use the picture, which is already here. You say, we're going to be making this. And as you can see, there we go, right way. The little paper fasteners fit through. We suggest a couple of questions here. Could you make it longer? Could you make it shorter? Is it easier to work with longer or shorter? So you may need to give them something to pick up. We found the nice easy thing is some beads. So we have packs of beads for them to test with to see, is it easier to pick up something big, something small? I've used rubbers before. I've used lollies. So if your policy gives lollies as a treat, they can pick up the lolly, and if they pick up the lolly, they can have the lolly. All right, depends on the policy that you have. And they really are, plan it a little bit, so they're going to crisscross, and the next one's going to crisscross, and the last one's going to crisscross. And then I can start assembling. So I might choose to put the middles together first. And that really is as simple as it is. All right. A little bit of fine motor skills, but nothing too impossible. And if it doesn't work, well, that's the design and make aspect of this. Oh, I see you're having trouble with it. What else could you try? All right. Did they make it right? You don't know. They have to try. All right. And it's really quite doable. You can, of course, have footage of a spacewalk to go with this to allow young people to look at how astronauts are actually in space. The astronauts, of course, are in the news right now because of the Starliner not working the way it was intended, and 2 astronauts having to stay an extra couple of months longer than they anticipated. That's had the knock-on effect that the next mission that was planned to have 4 people is only going to have 2, because 2 of the astronauts need some seats to get home in the springtime. So the next mission launch, which is is it next week, Rob?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so the mission that was due to go up got delayed while they were figuring out what they were doing with Starliner, and then is going to have just those extra couple of astronauts coming back with them. There, so there's my cardboard one. Assembled. Now, will it pick anything up? The way I'm feeling about this, my top is good, my end doesn't seem to be closing too much. So I might be able to pick something big up. Can I get, no, but I might get the lolly this way. Let's have a go, you know? And it really is about exploring, testing, playing. Are they then going to grab it? What if I try to grab it in one of the middle-y bits? Ha-ha. And flip it. Ha-ha. Okay, lolly's mine. I'm going to enjoy that later. So that's one option that we're proposing to you. If this thought is just, find something that you are happy with. Find something that does fit the needs of your library users. If they're really just looking for suggestions of books and stories, absolutely support them in that way. But this might be a way to do something a little bit more. And we've included it because you don't need a table for it. You can sit in a corner, all right? And the materials are reusable. You can ask people to dismantle it and let you have it back. And with the lolly sticks, they're washable should you need for the hygiene reasons from one person to the other. Cardboard, not so washable, but it's your option of how you'd like to do it. And Rob asked me earlier what these were. We sometimes add these to the base of these ones to make a little bit of friction, and they are the pencil toppers with erasers. So that can be a little bit more grabby if you have the end. But I think by going to 3 lengths, I'm having a much harder time picking things up. I might dismantle down and just go for 2 lengths. All right. Or even here, I can, aha. All right. So this can be made simpler or more complicated as needed. All right. So hopefully that gives you a little sense of what we might do in this activity. Now I notice there's a few more people in the chat, so I'm just going to pop the chat open for us. Okay, that's great. All right. Any questions or comments about what we've shown, or thoughts for yourself about how you might work away with Space Week?
Seems like we're okay so far.
Yeah, I think going with the craft idea is a good one. We would get a lot of small children into the library. So I think, what age group would you suggest it for?
When I've done this with young people, I have been 2nd class and up with this particular one, just because of the fine motor skills. So second class and up for this, just because it does have that little bit of opening, closing, putting in. If you had an infants class, I would go back to one of the club resources of Design Your Own Constellation. So it
Okay.
says, I used to be, and now I am. All right, it's a beautiful, simple resource. I'll just share screen so you can see it from the Space Week website. So I'll just share again there. So if we just go back to our 4 organizers for clubs, we have, come down for clubs, draw your own constellation. So this says, constellations are patterns that people have made up. Sometimes they look a bit like the thing and sometimes they don't. So I used to be a saucepan, now I am. And invite children to share what they think they can make with those shapes. And then tell a story about how that creature ended up in the sky. All right, so this is one that I have used with 4-year-olds. It's very straightforward and allows for a nice creative discussion about what they might create or make. You can also consider some of one of the family activities that is very accessible for younger people is an open activity around designing a space station. So here we've made the robot arms. We have a support for Design Your Own Space Station as part of our Space Arts program. So we'd have a video support already that exists for this, but we suggest collect items to make your own model. So this can be, I have done this with 6- and 7-year-olds, and they worked as a group to take the stuff out of my recycling bin and assemble it to make a space station. One individual decided that she was going to make a rocket. So she went off and worked by herself and came back with the rocket that was joining the space station that everybody else had made. We used an awful lot of cereal boxes. Cereal boxes in my house never hit the recycling bin. They always go in a pile. And the skewers and foil to make the radiators. And of course, if you have this, you can add in a picture of the actual International Space Station or a book about the International Space Station. It's a really nice activity. And of course, you have the option to display them if you have one of the enormous spaces to be able to display that. But this can be a, will you work on this part of it? And leave it for the next person to add, and then the next person to add. And if they are aware that this isn't a take home, that can be a simple way. Rob has also prepared some simple word searches and puzzles that are printable as options for a small activity. And if you are into the full crafty design and make, one of our always popular is design an alien. Make and design an alien, because no one's ever seen an alien. So if you have assorted craft materials, those can be used to make an alien. And I have made aliens with children from 4 up. Years of aliens I have made. And some of the really nice soft plasticine materials, clay materials, some of the air drying clay are lovely, or you might go with pipe cleaners. Tin foil is fabulous for designing 3D models, 3D shapes. And those, of course, are much easier to take away. Tin foil is super, very inexpensive, and a nice takeaway. All right, so I've made gazillions of those. All right, so that might be an option. I don't think I've ever written out the full design an alien, although I have it as a teacher resource from Mars.
Well,
All right,
we
so
have a space art session. I think it was either last year or the year before where
yeah.
we focused on designing an alien. So what I'll do is I'll actually include the previous iterations of the space art session in a follow-up email. And I will give everybody here today early access to the space art session for this year. We usually just do that for teachers, but as Francis was suggesting, it actually might be a very good idea for libraries too. So we'll send that your way.
And here's a few of my aliens. All right, so these are aliens made by children here in the past, and these are quite small aliens. Because I only gave people a tiny bit each. I said, I'd rather have lots of small aliens than just a few really big aliens. So as you can see, a few googly eyes, pipe cleaners. And this was the very inexpensive, very thin plasticine that we used. It came in nice little strips, so lots of different colors to choose from. All right, and we reference them to fictional aliens, Marvin the Martian, Mars Attacks, The War of the Worlds, The Martian Chronicles. So we said, okay, here's some Martians that have been imagined. How would you imagine a Martian? All right, and it's nice because Mars is in the sky during Space Week. All right.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but my real suggestion is we've got a lot on the Space Week website. So in addition to the events that are being organized, the for organizers section really has lots and lots of resources, and you just need to keep scrolling down. All of these are visible by just clicking the download. So it doesn't automatically download for you. You can have a look at them and say, is this something I can use? Some of them are more teacher designed, but adaptable, all right, to creating. This is create a spacesuit. A small template and a range of craft materials. What would an astronaut need in their spacesuit? They need to be warm and they need to be airtight. All right, so you can design that very easily and then go ahead and make a buggy or whatever else you like. Lots and lots of options there. Okay. And the real key for us is not to be the expert. Oh, one more thing. If you are working with very young children, we have run a summer school for the last few years, and these are recommendations here under whole school resources, Space Week for junior classes, Space Week for junior classes in Ashter, whole week plans. These include a huge number of recommendations of stories, activities, simple things that would be done during the Ashter time of a school. So that creative play-based time that junior and senior infants and first class engage with. There's examples of games, arts, music, role play, a few stories, all right? And these are just one-page suggestions. Where there have been book suggestions, these are ones that teachers have identified as books that they felt were suitable for their younger class. We, of course, have stories and song suggestions. We have activity and drama suggestions. We have some poems being suggested and working pairs to pretend about being a Martian. So working together, and these are from teachers who took the course in the past. I have yet to assemble this year's, but it will be up probably by the end of the week. And again, all sorts of options and suggestions of stories, of role play, ideas for each day of the week. Some of these are simple, some of these are a bit more complicated, but all suggested for Space Week plans. Okay, so these in particular are aimed for infants to second class, and that's a huge, rich resource where you can find material that might suit the children who are using your services. Okay, so just for organizers, for teachers, near the bottom, not completely the bottom, but near the bottom, you'll find those 3 sets of Space Week guides. All right.
That's great, Frances. Thank you. Did we have one other resource that we were going to walk through on the scaling the universe on a piece of string?
We were, and I'd forgotten about that because my brain is mush. I just need to figure out where my piece of string is.
Not to worry. As Frances doing that, I just want to reiterate the idea that you guys have probably got other programs that you were running that can very easily be pivoted to a space themed activity. When we try to encourage people to take part in Space Week for the first time, the first reaction I get is always a reluctance and well, I don't know a ton about space. You really don't need to. It just needs to be a tangential kind of connection and an excuse to encourage kids to explore, kids, adults, everybody, to explore space. So for instance, if you're already running a STEM-based Lego club, to make it a Space Week activity, all you have to do is suggest that the kids make a space-themed Lego activity that week. You know, maybe it's a rocket, or they try to make a Lego ISS. If you have a book club, encourage them to read one of the many Space Reads books that we recommend, and I'll send on a list of that. One book in particular that's getting a lot of positive praise at the moment is by Andy Weir. You're probably familiar with him for The Martian.
The Martian.
That was converted into that movie with Matt Damon a few years ago. But Project Hail Mary is a follow-up book by him that is receiving a lot of praise for being reasonably scientific accurate, but also being just a very compelling read. So it would be a fantastic one to recommend for a book club. If you have art-based sessions, for instance, we have all sorts of space art resources that we've used in the past. But honestly, it really does just need to be that small of a link to space. You don't have to go, you know, hell for leather into all things space and become the next Stephen Hawking to engage with people about the topic of space. It really is just that prompt to get them involved in the first place. And what we really want to see people doing is just using your services. We want people to be encouraged to go to the library and take out books, take out DVDs, etc., as we've said before. And that's why I quite like this workshop that we're about to lean into here, is that it makes for a nice little in-library resource in itself. So what you're making could actually be hung as a kind of a little garland around the library and the children's section, for instance, and it's scalable. So if you want to do something small, it works on a small scale. If you want to do it on a larger scale, that also works. And it's a lovely companion to the resource that Francis showed earlier in the session, where you can use that website to figure out, you know, the scale of your neighborhood, perhaps, where the solar system is. And it's like, okay, we've had a look at that now. Let's scale it back and let's maybe see what the scale of the universe would look like here in the library. And it's also a really, really good one for parents who might be taking part with the kids to be able to do again at home. So it's like, all right, we're going to do this in our living room and see where the solar system would play out in our living room. So it's really fun to just see that in all those different contexts.
Yeah. So I'm going to just spotlight again my display space. I've got quite a few bits. I'm going to shove those to one side, because for this, we are going to scale the entire solar system to be the size of a person. So I have some string, which I am going to just make my size. So let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see me. Hello. Oh, there I am. All right. So I'm going to make this from my head down to my feet. So I'm going to make the solar system the size of this piece of string. All right. You can make this with string. You can make this with adding machine paper if you have it. If you use string, you're going to need scissors, which are slightly more cutty than the ones I'm using, which seem to be almost no cutty, right? And for younger children who wouldn't necessarily have good writing skills, you might want to have pre-made, I'll pop it up here, writing of your planets, because we're going to put the planets of the solar system and the sun correct distance they should be. Older children will be able to tell you the name of the planets. Any takers here for giving us the names of the planets?
Any guesses on what the first one is out from the sun?
Don't worry about the order.
Mercury?
Any planet, but Mercury is next, yeah. So I'm just making a card for each of them, so keep going.
Does it have to be in order?
Nope, any order.
Jupiter,
Yeah,
Uranus,
yeah.
Pluto, it is hard. Saturn,
It's
Earth.
not meant to be hard, just any that occur to you.
Mars,
There's Mars, brilliant. There's the one we're on.
Earth,
Yeah. There's one that starts with a V that's really bright
Mhm.
in the morning and sometimes in the evening. Starts with a V,
Yeah, we had
Venus.
we shouted
and
it out.
that's the one. I was gonna say rhymes with, but I could end up in trouble there, so. All right, oh, you said Neptune, so we have Neptune.
In terms
All
of
right.
unfortunate ones, I have a great story from a few years back where I was trying to get a kid to guess Earth as an answer. He was sitting on the floor of the planetarium as we were looking at the night sky, and I was asking him, I think it was what the densest planet was, and I said, "I'll give you a hint. You're sitting on it." And the kid said, with absolutely no joke in his voice or anything, with real enthusiasm, "Oh, Uranus." I'm like, "Oh no!" And like. I was actually quite proud of the kid. I was like, very clever.
Yeah,
He's trying to be a smart pants. He just he put two and two together in the wrong way, but he's
yeah.
the right.
Well, I've added in Saturn, the one with the rings, and I've added the asteroids because they are between Mars and Jupiter. So we've got Sun going out to Pluto. So when we assemble this and put it together, I'm going to just zoom back in again here. Zoom in here. All right. So we're going to attach the Sun at one end. I'm just using a bit of tape to hold my planet cards right to the end of where I want it. So I'm just taping Sun at one end, and representing the other end of the solar system is going to be Pluto, representing, it's now a dwarf planet, but the area in space where the comets come from. So we have the Sun. Change it. Masking tape is my favorite because you can just change its position very easily. So we have Sun at one end, Pluto at the other. So Pluto is here. The Sun is at my head. So we might just pull back a little bit. I think you can see the top of it. Oh, zoom this way. Okay. Now, so we've got here the solar system to size. Okay. So we start by folding the whole solar system in half. So there is a planet that is halfway between the Sun and Pluto. So if we have all our planets in order, we've got Mercury, then Venus, then Earth, then Mars, then the asteroids, then Jupiter, then Saturn, then Uranus, then Neptune. So which one of these do we think is halfway from the Sun to Pluto? So the Sun's here, Pluto's here. Which one do you reckon is halfway? And when I do this with people, I ask them, which one do they think is halfway? All right.
But I'm not sure, and I've been working here 5 or 6 years. I really should know by now.
All right. Well, a lot of people go, okay, halfway would be the middle of them. So they guess the asteroids. It isn't the asteroids. The asteroids are not halfway out. And there's a slightly funny, slightly rude way to remember this, which I quite like, which is if I put the Sun on my head, halfway along here, which planet is halfway along? And Rob, it's the same answer that the young person in the planetarium had.
That's unfortunate, but also very helpful.
It is, so halfway between the Sun and Pluto is the planet Uranus. Or if you want to really get the laughs, Uranus. All right, so there's halfway. Halfway between Pluto and Uranus is the planet Neptune. So we can add Neptune there. And we're going to keep going by halves all the way along. All right, so we've got the outer planets here. we've got Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. We go halfway between the Sun and Uranus. There is Saturn. And I like this, the simple reminder is there's an S-U-N, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune at the outer part of the solar system. Halfway between the Sun and Saturn is Jupiter. And at this point, people are normally going, whoa, all the other planets fit in there. And I say there's a reason it's called space. So we have to get the rest of the planets in this much space. So halfway between the Sun and Jupiter is the asteroids. And we're seriously running out of space now.
Veronica,
Halfway between the asteroids and the Sun is Mars.
I'm just gonna hop in here for 1 second. Francis, somebody's having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm hearing you okay, but Veronica, are you hearing me okay? Perhaps it's just an issue with one microphone.
Okay. Because I'm on the microphone in the room.
Mhm.
So that might be the issue, but if you're able to hear it. Now, because I've made my cards quite big, I'm out of space. Because I still have to put 3 more planets in that tiny little bit of space that we have remaining. And they are roughly equally spaced. So we would have Mercury here, Venus here, Earth here. So in my solar system scale, I've got Jupiter on my chin, the asteroids on my nose, Mars on my forehead, and the remaining planets all in there. Now, I've done this enough times that these numbers are in my head. We do have a resource that outlines this and gives instructions and a support to help you do this. And of course, you can adapt it from solar system to scale, where the entire solar system, as we started, centered on Kinsale, that's using the similar sets of ratios. So the solar system is remarkably busy in the middle. You know, when we're looking really close in, all right? So when we have the very center of our solar system, right here, going from the Sun to Mars and the asteroids, we're gonna just squeeze the rest of them here, Mercury, Venus, Earth in here, with Pluto way off in the distance. This can be made to any scale. This can be made to any size. Adding machine tape is nice. Calculator tape sometimes if you've got one of those desk calculators. Or you could pre-print little stickers. You could use a measuring tape if you had a source of measuring tapes. Or if you've been to IKEA and gathered some of their paper meter tapes. It needs to be really about 1.5 meters long if you can, because otherwise it's just too tight at the end. So when I've done this with much smaller children, I've said just stretch it out so it's as high as your arm up. So if you're talking with a child who's 1.20 meters or less, they've got quite a small solar system to make, so we just stretch it up longer. I've done this in a group with 150 children at the same time. A couple of teachers helping and supporting for those who were less confident in writing, but it really becomes a beautiful activity and easy to share. And of course, if you set this up as a display, you could measure the length of the room that you have and divide and ask children to contribute a picture of their favorite planet, a diagram of what they think the surface looks like. Have they found a photograph? All right, in the case of Mars, there are rovers driving over Mars all the time. There's lots of pictures live from the surface of Mars. So they can then choose And every planet has been visited by a spacecraft. So spacecraft have either landed or flown by every single planet that we've included in this solar system. So there are images to be found, to be shared, and to be included.
I was going to say this if you kind of add the caveat that the planet wouldn't be to scale, it would make for a lovely garland if, you know, the participants were to design, you know, and color in each planet and hang them up. It would make lovely Space Week decoration.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to say, I do have plans for a Christmas garland, Christmas tree garland with my planets
Nice.
correctly scaled. And I'll put the Earth so it's visible with all the ones near it. But
Right.
yeah, it's very doable, and it's got that nice wow factor to it of really, you know, you're 3/4 in towards the center of the solar system, and you're only at Saturn. Like,
And am I right in saying, Francis, that's the furthest away planet you can comfortably see with the naked eye as well?
yes, yeah, Saturn is easy to see with eyeballs, and when you look at its distance, that's why. Uranus, you have to know exactly where to look, and even then, it was discovered by telescope. Neptune was discovered by telescope, and Pluto was only discovered 100 years ago by telescope. Definitely not easy to see, or else we would have discovered them earlier. So the observable planets are all in the first quarter of the solar system.
It's incredible.
I know, it's just, space is cool. Space is so cool. Right, now, we're already at 12 o'clock, Rob, so
I think I was
we'll,
going to say that's fantastic, Francis. Thank you so much. But we do want to give people a chance to ask questions. I know one or two speakers were having difficulty, or participants were having difficulty with the sound. But just to reassure you, we have recorded this whole session and we're hearing the sound here fine, so that the audio will be fine on the sound and on the video. So we'll send that on to you along with any of the resources that Francis mentioned, so you can jump back to the point where the audio is giving you difficulty. But if anybody has any questions now, we'd be happy to take them. Or if you have any feedback on how we might be able to better engage libraries ahead of Space Week in future,